The anticipation was palpable as I stood outside the quaint, candlelit restaurant. The soft glow spilled onto the cobblestone pathway, casting an almost magical aura. My heart fluttered in excitement and nerves. I was about to meet someone I'd been chatting with for weeks. His name was Alex, and our virtual conversations had been filled with witty banter and shared interests. I tried to quell the nervous energy that bubbled within me. And then, he arrived. Alex walked toward me with a confident stride, his sharp features illuminated by the soft lights around us. But as he drew nearer, my excitement waned. His eyes, which had seemed warm and inviting in his photos, were now oddly vacant, devoid of emotion. His smile, once so charming, seemed plastered on, as if he was trying too hard to project an image. "Hi there, Lily," he said, extending a hand. I hesitated for a second, his icy eyes locking onto mine, and then I shook his hand, feeling an odd chill creep up my arm. "Yes, nice to meet you," I replied, offering a cautious smile. We were seated at a corner table, the flickering candles casting an intimate, eerie glow. The ambiance was perfect, but something about Alex's presence sent a shiver down my spine. He ordered a glass of red wine, and I opted for a sparkling water, hoping to keep my wits about me. As we delved into conversation, his tone remained steady, almost rehearsed. "So, tell me about yourself," I asked, trying to break through the strange tension that hung in the air. He leaned in, his eyes fixed on me as if he was trying to read my thoughts. "I'm a collector of oddities, unique things that most people overlook." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued and slightly unnerved. "Like what?" "Like old photographs, antique trinkets, and stories of forgotten places. There's beauty in the darkness, don't you think?" His words sent a chill down my spine, but I brushed it off as a quirky conversation starter. As the evening progressed, however, the feeling of unease deepened. Alex spoke about his travels to obscure locations, his tone growing more animated as he recounted tales of abandoned buildings and eerie encounters. I attempted to steer the conversation toward lighter topics, but he was fixated on the darker aspects of life. He spoke of superstitions, rituals, and the unexplainable. It was as if he was drawing me into a world I hadn't signed up for. The waiter brought our food, and I seized the opportunity to change the subject. But even as I savored the delicious flavors, a nagging feeling persisted. It was as though I was being dissected under his watchful gaze, as if he was trying to unravel my very essence. As the evening wore on, Alex's behavior became increasingly unsettling. He spoke of things that sent shivers down my spine. Dark rituals, unexplained phenomena, and the allure of the unknown. His eyes gleamed with an almost fanatical intensity, and I found myself growing more uncomfortable by the minute. "I've always been drawn to the mysterious and enigmatic," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "There's so much beneath the surface waiting to be discovered." I nodded, my heart racing as I searched for an escape. The once charming ambiance of the restaurant now felt suffocating, the shadows dancing on the walls taking on a sinister quality. Finally, I mustered the courage to speak up. "I think this isn't really working for me. I appreciate the conversation, but I think I should head home." Alex's smile faltered for a fraction of a second before he nodded. "Of course, I understand." As we exited the restaurant, a cold breeze swept through the air, sending a shiver down my spine. I glanced back at Alex, who was watching me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I quickened my pace, my heart pounding as I fumbled for my car keys. "Take care, Lily," he called out, his voice carrying an unsettling echo. I forced a smile and practically ran to my car, relief washing over me as I locked the doors. The drive home was a blur, my mind racing with the strange encounter I had just endured. When I arrived home, I changed into my pajamas and settled into bed. I couldn't shake the feeling that Alex's unsettling presence lingered. It was as if his obsession with the unknown had seeped into my world, leaving a trail of unease in its wake. I stared at the ceiling, haunted by the memory of his vacant eyes and chilling words. The darkness seemed thicker, more suffocating, as if it held secrets that I couldn't comprehend. and as I finally drifted into an uneasy sleep, I couldn't help but wonder what else lay hidden beneath the surface waiting to be discovered.
I walked into the cozy cafe, nervously adjusting my collar. My friend Sarah had set me up on this blind date, assuring me that Mark was a great guy. As I scanned the room, I spotted a guy with messy blonde hair waving at me. I forced a smile and made my way over. "Hi, you must be Ashley," he said, extending a hand. I shook it, feeling his clammy palm against mine. "Yep, that's me. Nice to meet you," I replied, trying to sound enthusiastic. We took a seat at a corner table, and the awkward silence settled in like an unwelcome guest. I ordered a latte, and Mark went for a complicated-sounding frappuccino with extra caramel drizzle. I mentally cringed as he gave the order. "So, Mark, tell me a little about yourself," I prompted, trying to break the ice. He leaned back, a smug grin on his face. "Well, I'm kind of a big deal in the online gaming community. I've got thousands of followers, and I'm basically a gaming legend." I blinked, not sure if he was joking. "Oh, that's cool. What kind of games do you play?" His eyes lit up as he launched into a monologue about his gaming prowess, complete with anecdotes about vanquishing virtual foes. I tried my best to feign interest, nodding and making the occasional "wow" or "that's impressive" comment. As he continued to talk about gaming, I realized that we didn't have much in common. I loved books and hiking, while he seemed content to spend his days glued to a screen. But I was determined to make the best of the situation. "So, Mark, do you have any other hobbies besides gaming?" I asked, hoping for a glimmer of common ground. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. "Not really. Gaming is my life. It's what I was born to do." I forced a smile, wondering if this date was a cosmic joke. As our conversation veered back to the intricacies of online gaming, I couldn't help but glance at my watch, silently willing time to speed up. Eventually, the topic shifted to food. Maybe, just maybe, we could find something to connect over. "Have you tried the lasagna here? It's supposed to be amazing," I suggested, hoping to steer the conversation in a more neutral direction. Mark's face twisted into a grimace. "Nah, I'm on a strict diet. Gotta keep my gamer physique, you know?" I tried not to let my disappointment show. "Oh, I see. Well, they have some healthy options too." He waved a dismissive hand. "Nah, I'll just stick to my energy drinks. Keeps me alert during my all-night gaming marathons." By now, I was struggling to keep a straight face. It felt like I was on a date with an alien from another planet. An alien whose spaceship was probably parked outside, waiting to take him back to the gaming world. As the conversation limped along, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. A group of friends walked in, laughing and chatting. They seemed so carefree, and I couldn't help but wish I was hanging out with them instead. Mark seemed oblivious to my distraction. He was too busy explaining the technicalities of his gaming setup, complete with diagrams he sketched on a napkin. I nodded along, feeling more and more disconnected from the situation. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Mark looked at his phone and grimaced. "Sorry, Ashley, but I've got an important raid I need to join. Duty calls, you know?" I blinked, trying to process what he had just said. "Oh, sure, no problem." He stood up, flashing me a quick smile. "It was great meeting you, Ash. Maybe we can game together sometime." I managed a weak smile. "Yeah, maybe." As he hurried out of the cafe, I let out a sigh of relief. I sat there for a moment, grateful that the date was finally over. I looked around, taking in the cheerful chatter of other couples and friends enjoying their time together. I realized that sometimes bad dates were simply a reminder of what I truly valued: genuine connections, shared interests, and the joy of being in the company of someone who made me feel alive. As I paid the bill and headed out, I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of the situation. Sometimes bad dates were just a hilarious detour on the journey to finding someone who truly clicked with my quirkiness. And while my blind date with Mark might have been a disaster, it was certainly a story I'd be laughing about for years to come.
The memory of our first date lingered in my mind as I stood outside the cozy bistro, my heart racing. John and I had hit it off so well during our initial meeting that I was excited to see where our connection would lead. Our conversations had been effortless, and I had even caught myself daydreaming about what the future might hold. As I waited, a familiar figure emerged from the evening crowd. John approached with a charming smile, his blue eyes sparkling in the soft light. He looked even better than I remembered, confident, handsome, and utterly captivating. "Hey there, Amelia," he said. "Hi, John," I replied hurriedly. We entered the bistro, its warm ambiance providing the perfect backdrop for our second date. I ordered a glass of wine, and John chose a craft beer, our choices reflecting our distinct tastes. As we began chatting, I felt a sense of comfort with John, as if we had known each other for much longer than just one date. Our conversation flowed easily, and his laughter was infectious, making me forget any reservations I had. "So, Amelia, tell me more about your interests," he asked, leaning in with genuine curiosity. I smiled, feeling at ease. "I'm really into hiking and photography. There's something magical about capturing moments in nature." He nodded, his eyes fixed on mine. "That's beautiful. You must have seen some incredible sights." Our conversation took us on a journey through shared hobbies and future aspirations. John's charm was undeniable, and with each passing moment, my earlier nerves seemed to fade away. But then, as our dessert arrived, the atmosphere shifted. John's expression became pensive, and he stared at me in a way that made my skin prickle. "Amelia, there's something I need to tell you." My heart skipped a beat, and a sudden unease settled in the pit of my stomach. "What is it?" He sighed, his gaze never leaving mine. "I have an unusual interest, something I haven't shared with many people." Curiosity mingled with apprehension as I leaned in, urging him to continue. "What is it, John?" "I'm fascinated by the concept of time and its impact on our lives," he began, his voice steady but tinged with an eerie intensity. "I believe that time is not as linear as we perceive it to be. It's more malleable." A shiver ran down my spine, and I tried to mask my growing unease with a polite smile. "That's an interesting perspective." His eyes bore into mine, his intensity unnerving. "I've been studying ancient rituals and practices that supposedly allow one to manipulate time, to tap into moments from the past or the future." I felt a chill settle over me as his words sank in. "Are you saying you believe in time travel?" He nodded, his smile slightly unsettling. "I've been experimenting with certain techniques. I believe that I can glimpse fragments of the past and future, even if it's just for a brief moment." As I tried to navigate the awkward conversation, the bistro's lights began to flicker. "You see, Amelia," John continued, his voice now a low whisper that sent shivers down my spine. "I've been trying to find someone who's willing to experience these glimpses of time with me." I swallowed hard, my heart pounding as the realization hit me. He wasn't just sharing his fascination with time manipulation, he was asking me to join him in his experiments. "I'm not sure I understand," I stammered, my mind racing for an escape. John leaned in, his intense gaze locking onto mine. "I want you to be my partner in this, Amelia. To experience the unknown with me, to journey through time together." The lights flickered more violently, and my heart raced as I glanced around the bistro. "I can't," I managed to say, my voice shaky. "This is too much for me." John's smile faltered, and for a moment I saw a glimpse of disappointment in his eyes. But then, his expression hardened and the air grew even colder. "I was hoping you'd be open to it," he said, his tone taking on an edge it hadn't heard before. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized that the charming man I had connected with was not who he seemed. There was something far more unsettling lurking beneath the surface. As I prepared to make a hasty exit, a sudden gust of wind swept through the bistro, extinguishing the candles. Darkness enveloped us, and in that moment, the truth hit me like a thunderbolt. John's fascination with time manipulation was not just a fascination, it was an obsession. I didn't look back. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me, my mind reeling from the unsettling encounter. Days turned into weeks, and I cautiously resumed my daily routine, forever changed by that second date gone awry. But then, one evening, I received an email from an unknown sender. The subject line read, "A glimpse through time." With trembling hands, I opened the email to find an attachment, a photograph. It was a picture of me, sitting at the bistro on our second date, taken from a distance.